Different start this morning. Let's give him a nice round of applause. We need to speak to Stu from Spain Speaks before his busy day starts over there on the other side of the Iberian Peninsula.
Are we on?
Stuart, yes, we're on. Is this thing working? How are you, mate?
Dia.
It's great to see you. Normally, I see you in this set on your wonderful Spain Speaks program on YouTube, where you have many thousands of subscribers. Our kind of neighbor YouTube channel over there on the other side of this landmass. How are you doing this morning? How did you get to be in Spain?
Well, firstly, I'm going well. Hope you guys are going well too there. And just before we begin, Carl, I just want to say a fantastic intro that you've got going here. I didn't expect a minute-long intro with your own song and everything. Amazing.
Jazz. Yes, jazz. It's a bit of a Marmite tune. We used to have a whistling theme tune that people still talk about and miss. And some say it's heard whistled through the valleys of central Portugal. And we changed over to that wonderful composition sent in by one of our community, Warren Sharm in Canada.
Fantastic. Yeah, it really adds something to the show. So just going back to what you said there before, how did I get to Spain? Well, a long time ago, Carl. Now it was 24 years ago, I think, going on 25 this year. I was traveling at the time and met a Spanish lady and been here ever since.
For the song coming on.
Well, you've got one queued up, no doubt. That's it.
Well, it's so good to see you. I'm slightly in awe, actually, because it's wonderful watching you in action on Spain Speaks. For those people who've been under a rock and don't know what it is, how does the format of Spain Speaks work? And what is it you do for people for that side of the Iberian Peninsula?
My channel started off, I'm not sure if it's down the same line as yours, Carl, but my channel started off as just putting videos out. I was looking for something to do. I had a couple of cameras sitting around. So I just started filming my thoughts, basically, and telling people about really I started off telling people about not only the pros of living in Spain, but the cons more so. And those were some of the videos that did quite well, talking about, as I said, not only the backgrounds that we have here, as you can see there, the green screen, but also just the day-to-day of living in a country like this, especially from a working point of view. So I've always been living and working. There's a lot of channels out there now that are, showing a fantastic life down there on the coast, and everybody, the sun shines every day and everything's fantastic. But I wanted to talk more about the realities. Then ever since COVID, I sort of pivoted because couldn't travel, so I couldn't get out there and do many trips around the country. So I started talking about news in Spain, which was COVID dominated, and it sort of kicked on from there. And the channel grew quite a bit during that time. And it's just sort of taken off from there. And I'm still focusing more on news nowadays and just giving people an idea, because probably like a lot of your viewers, Carl, when you come to live in a country like Portugal or Spain, you don't really know what's going on. So I just try to decipher the news, let's say, and let people know what's going on from a news and political point of view, which is always interesting in Spain.
And you could. Yes, that's so true, isn't it? And you could say more interesting by the day. I think it's fascinating how you chart your beginnings there, because it's interesting that people do want to know about what the downside, the shadow side of life, if you like. And it's an old news adage, isn't it? It's like bad news has traveled.
Bad news sells. Yeah, that's right.
Yes, it's so true. And I've learned about this because. I was the most popular video I've done is not my own. It was like on Expats Everywhere with Josh. And my wife watched that after we'd had a chat, and I had the sort of nickname, the Portuguese Pollyanna. And I think it's something that goes through. It's a stage of being an expat, isn't it? Is that you only want to look at the good things, like you say, like the picture behind you, and you celebrate all the good stuff, and you don't really want to talk about the bad stuff. But people really do want to know about it. And Louisa just decided to make a video with Kaylee of Expats Everywhere, Josh's missus, and they talked about the mold and the slippery calzadas, and it's a much more popular video in the sense that it's been watched a lot more. Yeah.
Well, that's what I found as well. So you can just, especially on YouTube, the the headlines, the more negative the headline, the more negative the thumbnail, the more people will watch the video, right? So I've been accused of clickbaiting. I don't think it's clickbaiting, because I always have something relative to what's in the content. But I had a YouTube consultant that I was working with last year. They sort of give you people to give you ideas, and she said make them more clickbaity, because what happens on YouTube, Carl, as you know, is that there's thousands and thousands of hours of content uploaded every day about different topics.
Yeah.
And the only way to make yourself stand out is to catch people's attention away from the viewers that you regularly get, right? So so that was the idea. And as you said, you put something a little bit negative or problematic, like, you know, walking down those slippery Portuguese sidewalks when it rains, or you ride your bike, and quite easily go A over T, as they say, and that's what people want to know, right?
It so is. You're a legend, it says here. Victoria Benton's in. Victoria, like you, and we'll talk about this morning as well, because I think you've got a fondness for Portugal as well, haven't you? You're a legend, says Victoria. She sees Portugal as the husband and Spain as the affair, the love interest on the other side of the.
Yeah. Well, Spain is where I do my day to day. And in Portugal is where I do try to slip away for a romantic time, Carl, if you want to put it that way.
Excellent. Very good. And where's Mia? Is the first question in for you this morning. Who's Mia?
Mia's my dog. You met her when we met up in San Martino, if you remember.
That's Mia, of course. I remember your dog. I didn't remember her name. Yeah. Okay,
that's right. Yeah, she's not here in the moment because she got into my waste paper basket down here on the floor. So she's keeping out of sight.
Okay. And she loves you being a YouTuber, doesn't she? Because she gets to go out for a long walk when you do those walk and talks.
Well, we do a long walk every day.
Right.
So we're out for about an hour and a half every day in the morning. So it doesn't matter whether I'm filming or not, but the filming's the added bonus, you know, so she's always included in those videos if I can. And I don't do it so much here because the weather's freezing cold here, you know, so the camera sometimes doesn't work properly in the -2 or 3. But when I was in Portugal recently, I was doing one of those, you know, 3 or 4 times a week just to get out, because it's such it's a more attractive walk, if you like.
Yes, yeah, brilliant. Well, we are neighbours then, aren't we? Kind of neighbouring YouTubers, and thank you for that free YouTube consultancy there. That's really helpful. And this Iberian Peninsula thing. You know, I always, you and I, as YouTubers, are thinking about audiences, aren't we? And I'm thinking, Stuart, he's got 5 times as many people in the population there. If we do a few of the stats and statistics of Portugal, we've got 10.5 million people in Portugal. You've got nearly 50. What did I say? Did I say 10.5 million there? You've got nearly 50 million in Spain, haven't you?
Yeah, close to 47, 48, something like that.
Yeah, population density is similar. Ours is 115 or thereabouts per square kilometre. Yours is 94. And a lot of similarities, right? The Catholic faith predominating, although 81% Catholics here in Portugal and 61 in Spain. The political situation, similarly Latin, and can get a little bit a little bit spicy sometimes, more so in Spain. Why would you say that is?
Well, the way I see it, Carl, is that Portugal, and I've said this in videos before, I think, that I've done about Portugal, is that in Portugal, everybody's on the same page. You're only 10.5 million people, as you said. Everybody respects the same flag. So you drive from north to south, you're going to see that, you know, the Portuguese flag, the only one flag. You might see some crazy person with a different flag up, but the majority of people are going to have the same flag. The language is the same from north to south. There's maybe a regional variation. You know, maybe they might, you know, pronounce a word a little bit differently in some parts of the country. I'm excluding the islands, Madeira and, you know, the Açores. But on mainland Portugal, everybody's on the same page. Okay, you've got your left and your right, which, you know, is everywhere. But in Spain, there's 17 autonomous communities, which is what they call them here. So apart from having all of the provinces, so you've got 40-something provinces. So Madrid's a province, Toledo's a province, if you know that part of Spain, central Spain. Segovia's a province. But in Portugal, again, you've got one less level of government, which also makes it very important. In Spain, there's 3. So in Portugal, you follow a UK system of government where you've got your central government, and then I think they call them the freguesias or something, do they, or something like that?
Yes,
Is it, or maybe?
Yeah. Well, I think freguesia is down to the parish level. But
Okay, yeah, okay, yeah. So
we got
well, that's right.
certainly got those regions around the country.
That's right, but it's not divided like it is here, I don't think. So in Spain, you've got 17 autonomous communities, and every autonomous community is, it's its own little state. So Madrid's an autonomous community now, Andalusia, Valencian community, Catalonia, and Spain also has a problem with parts of the country that don't want to be Spain.
Right.
In the past, that manifested itself in terrorist acts. So there were bombs exploding all over the country, again, similar to what happened in the UK with Northern Ireland, I suppose.
Yeah, remember that.
And then in the last 10 years, there's been a problem in Catalonia where they also want to separate, and they tried to hold a referendum which wasn't constitutionally legal, and the central government cracked down on the separatists and sent them to jail. One person escaped. So there's always something happening like that. But that's just what you see. And then there's all these other little groups around the country that also want to break away. Okay, so that's one of the big problems with Spain currently. Whereas in Portugal, as I said, everybody seems to be on the same page. There might be some people that are not happy with a certain government or whatever, but you see when Portugal wins a football game, everybody's on the same page.
Yeah, you're right. And that's quite a stark difference, isn't it? And I do get a great sense of that, about how united and patriotic Portugal is.
Yeah.
And from what you described there of Spain, that seems like an increasingly difficult problem, that people want to be more and more separate. Are there any moves to unite people?
Well, the central government would like to unite everybody. With the carrot or the stick, as they say. They've gone for the stick in recent times. They're trying to use the carrot effect at the moment. But it's complicated, and there's lots of language issues around Spain as well, which is makes it, there's a lot of variety when it comes to language, Carl. So even if you go just north of where you are there, I think, have you been to the north of Portugal?
Yeah, I have. Absolutely love it. Yeah. The Gerês National Park.
That's it. So, if you cross the border into Spain, you come into an area which is so similar to Portugal that you would think you were still in Portugal, right? Which is Galicia.
Yeah.
They've got their own language, which is, they call it Galego Portuguese. It's very similar, okay? And then there's, as I said, Catalan's a separate language. You've got the Basque language in the north as well. Valencian is a language. Majorca in the Balearic Islands, there's languages as well. They're all similar. They all have Latin bases except for Basque, but it also does build a cultural identity, which can lead, as we have seen, to separation.
Incredible. What an interesting situation. And I suppose, just as the rapper said, more money, more problems, more people, more problems, I suppose, is part of it. And the scale of it's very manageable, isn't it, by comparison?
That's right. And Portugal, for me, is very similar to Spain. You mentioned some of the statistics there that you said before. They're predominantly Catholic countries, although the difference, I think, in Spain is that people just, like in Australia nowadays, people just don't say they follow a religion. That's why the numbers are so low. But everybody, but everybody over a certain age was born a Catholic in this country. That you had no choice. You were baptized, and it was a state thing. And I think Portugal was similar in that sense, and that politically they've been similar as well. I think also with very strong men running the country for a long time, and I think that rubs off on the people whether they like it or not.
Yeah, I think you're right. Yeah, I mean, on a rational level, you think you can pick and choose, but it's the water you swim in, isn't it? Culturally, it affects you in ways you don't necessarily realize.
That's right, and culturally also very similar. So something simple like food. The food in Portugal is very similar to the food in Spain. It's not like you're going to Germany where you're on a sausage-based diet for 3 weeks. You've got that Mediterranean cuisine there in Portugal, even though it's not technically Mediterranean. They've got the fresh vegetables, good quality fruit, meat, fish, all of those type of things, and that's very, very similar. So a Spanish person would cross the border, and okay, the language is different. He knows that he's not in his country, but there are some similarities which do make them feel comfortable.
Yeah, amazing. Thank you so much for being here this morning. Victoria says, I used to live in Barcelona, but still have a home in Torrevieja. I hope I've pronounced that nearly correctly.
Torrevieja.
Torrevieja, of course. However, I now live in Portugal. I love all of the Iberian Peninsula, and we're so lucky, aren't we, to live on this great land mass. And I think we should make reference to the, you're an Aussie, I'm a Brit. We love the Iberian Peninsula and being here. And it's fascinating to see the rivalry between the two countries, which is now a great friendship, really, isn't it? So much good comes from it's an easy alliance now, but it hasn't always been that way. And what the Portuguese say is only bad wins and bad marriages come from Spain. What do the Spaniards say about the Portuguese?
Well, it doesn't exist for the majority of people. Portugal, it's something that if you look at when they do the weather here, Portugal's always just a blank space. There's nothing there at all, of course. Yeah. So a lot of Spanish people just disregard Portugal as something that's there, but they've never been here. It's changed in the last 5 years. COVID's changed that as well. A lot of Spanish people have crossed the border for the first time because it was just easier to go to Portugal than it was to go to hop on a plane and go somewhere. So it's really been opened up, and you can see that now. I actually heard one of the last times I was in Portugal that the Portuguese now treat Spanish tourism as local tourism. So they don't classify it as foreign tourism, which they probably did for years, because how do you control hundreds of thousands of people just crossing the border with no controls, which is also the fantastic thing about Schengen, Carl, that you can cross that border and nobody's going to say anything.
Yeah, incredible. So that's interesting. The COVID effect, all sorts of effects that we didn't know were going to happen, and that the neighborliness is a good neighborliness, and discovery of Portugal is a good thing for the Spanish people. When you come across that border, then, if we could finish this morning, because I know you've got things to do this morning, and thank you so much for being here. I hope you'll join us again sometime.
I will, yeah.
Another one of these chats as brothers across the peninsula here. What is it you love to do when you come to Portugal? And
nothing.
Okay, yes, good answer. And where do you like to do that nothing?
Yeah, so I go to Peniche, which is just south of where you are there. It's in the same area of Portugal, the Leiria, I think they call it, as they do. So it's just south of where you are. Peniche is the place, and it's a coastal town which has become quite well known in recent times for surfing. Surfing's really taken off in Portugal, and that's where we go. And I like it. We're sort of in an area in Peniche which is not too touristy, let's say, and it's so we can sort of have a low profile and get away from the hustles and bustles of Spain. And the good thing about Portugal is that although it's similar, the language is different. So you turn on the TV, you don't understand a word that they're saying a lot of the times, and you can really switch off, Carl. That's what I find. That's one of the reasons why we go.
I'm so glad. A little bit of a retreat and respite for you, and for us coming the other way. The words you use there, hustle and bustle. That's what people should prepare themselves for. I know when Spanish people are in the local supermarket, there is a marked difference, isn't there, between the dispositions of the two races, the Portuguese and the Spanish. And I think the Spanish, true to their, the national global stereotype, they are a bit more animated and noisier. And that's
loud,
what we can look forward to. Loud. Okay, that's what we can look forward to, right? As we cross the border. Us expats in Portugal, a little bit busier, a little bit more animated. Where would you suggest people go?
In Spain?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, Spain I had this argument with somebody. It wasn't really an argument, it was a discussion. Spain is a place where there's just so many things to see and do. And that's one of the things. You mentioned 4 times the population almost. Yeah. But when it comes to things to see and do, Portugal, in my opinion, is a little bit limited from a tourist point of view. You've got the 2 big cities, but really take that away. Maybe you've got Óbidos there in the middle that people can visit, but not many people are going to Santarém to see what's there, right? Or they're not going to Castelo.
As nice as it is, you're right.
Exactly. They're not going to Castelo Branco, right? So, but in Spain, there's just so many cities. If you like that type of tourism, and I'm talking like monumental cities, like you've got your Granadas, you've got your Sevilles, you've got your Toledos, Segovia, Salamanca. That's just 5 that I've just reeled off there. So, but there's just a lot more value-added tourism in that sense. And if you come to a city like Madrid or Barcelona, if you've got the big city living, then you've got the Costa del Sol, which, as the name suggests, is fantastic. The place in the background on the green screen here is Murcia, which is an unknown area. So there's just a lot more things to see and do. And it just can take up a lot more of your time as well. but you know, the big cities for a while, and then, you know, head to one of the smaller places, I would suggest, Carl. But there's just, in my opinion, a lot more things to see and do in Spain than there
Point
is
taken.
in
Yeah, and
Portugal. Yeah.
if I do segment this part of the show this morning and take your advice for YouTube video purposes, I should put something like Spain Speaks says Portugal not as good as Spain. That's the kind of clickbait we're looking for, isn't it?
Well, no, it's just say Portugal is rubbish compared to Spain, and that would that.
Job done.
No, yeah, but don't quote me. Don't quote me. No, but I'm just saying. No, I love Portugal. Don't get me wrong, but I'm just saying from that value added aspect there. You know, so you go to Portugal, the Algarve, if you want to go there. Okay, the weather's great, but Spain's got 50 Algarves, right?
It's so true, isn't it? So true.
So
Nerja is the one I've been to and had a fine time in Nerja, which I think
well,
is the
that's
most
it.
point, isn't it, of the peninsula?
Yeah, that's just you know, it's a little small little place there in Malaga, you know, but you've got all of the other side of Malaga as well. So it's just you know, it's a lot bigger, I think, is the thing you would take away from that. And Lisbon, you know, it's a big city, but it's probably only a quarter of the size of Madrid, I think, in population. I'm not sure. Don't quote me on that. But
and there are the pros and cons that go with that, of course, aren't there? The scale brings good things as well as bad things. So that's I love
absolutely,
that
yeah.
comparison. Yeah, thank you. Bayrandi is asking where your ponytail and flick knife are. Is that another racial stereotype of the Spanish? I wonder. I'm not sure. He also adds that he had a great time on his Portuguese coach trip. So the Portuguese have coach trips, the indigenous Portuguese, not just the expats here touring about. A trip to Santiago de Compostela. I had a great time there. And your green screen is confusing our viewers here, Stu. Green screen is confusing me. Clear blue skies here in Lisbon, but cold. That's just a nice nighttime view in Murcia there.
Just when the sun's setting. Yeah,
and you're drinking a cocktail there.
That's
Nice, very nice. You've also got a royal family, haven't you, still in Spain? What's that about?
Yeah, Spain has a royal family. That's right. King Felipe is the one, whereas Portugal, you have the old president that always seems to make the television news more than anyone else there in Portugal. He always seems to be somewhere. Never seen a person with so much energy as that guy.
Yeah, he's a legend.
That's it. Yeah, the royal family in Spain. Yeah, I would say it's on the same dysfunctional level as other royal families. Not going to mention any names, but they all tend to have their skeletons in the closet. And the former king of Spain now lives in self-imposed exile in Abu Dhabi. He's just said that he doesn't want to pay taxes anymore in Spain, so he's gone to live in a place where they don't pay taxes.
That's gone down well, I expect, isn't it?
That's it.
Yeah, amazing.
And the current king has, you know, scandals in the family. Brother-in-laws have ended up in prison for corruption and all of those things. But yeah, well, it is what it is, Carl.
It is. It is absolutely what it is. And thank you for such a brilliant insight into the neighbour of Portugal, Spain, of course. And first of many, I hope. I know you've got to go now. Victoria is just telling us that she's headed off to Ronda and Cadiz in a week. Thank you so much. All the best to you. I look forward to seeing you again when you come over to the Silver Coast, and look forward to seeing you again on the Good Morning Portugal screen if we can have another chat, because we love a lot of fun talking to you and your wonderful Aussie sense of humour coming through the talk about Spain there.
Absolutely, and I'd just like to know what that ponytail and flick knife reference is about.
We'll get back to you on that. Yeah.
Okay, all right.
Yes. So that's another good headline we could have, isn't it? It's Spain, it's all ponytails and flick knives. Who wouldn't want to watch that?
Oh, that's it. So remember to get those titles going, Carl, and the thumbnails as well if you want to get people to watch the vids.
Will do, mate. Okay, all the best. You have a great day.
All right, good one. Have a great one. See you later.
There he goes.
Bye-bye.
Stuart of Spain Speaks there. Fantastic. Let's have a look at these Iberian Peninsula facts then, and we'll talk a bit more about the Portugal-Spain relationships, which have changed, obviously, over the years. They're quite different now to how they used to be, that's for sure. Let me tell you more about the Iberian Peninsula. Isn't it a lovely name for starters, the Iberian Peninsula? We're taking our cues from Wikipedia. Thank you, Wikipedia, this morning. I haven't bunged Jimmy Wales any money recently. Do you ever do that? The Iberian Peninsula, also known as Iberia, is a peninsula in southwestern Europe, which is where most of us are this morning, defining the westernmost edge of Eurasia. It is not the band, the landmass. It is divided between peninsular Spain and continental Portugal, comprising most of the region, to which a small part of southern France, Andorra, and Gibraltar add up. I knew about Gib, but I didn't realize that southern France and Andorra are often included in the Iberian Peninsula, or technically are included, with an area of approximately 254 square kilometers, roughly. And a population of again, roughly 53 million people. It is the second largest European peninsula by area after the Scandinavian peninsula. There you go. And nice to know the origins, I think. The word Iberia is a noun adapted from the Latin word Hiberia, originating in the ancient Greek, the word, I can't read ancient Greek, but let's go with it being pronounced Iberia these days, used by Greek geographers under the rule of the Roman Empire to refer to what is known today in English as the Iberian Peninsula. And little did they know that we'd all be here now. They were aware of their movements, weren't they? The Greeks and the Romans and their history. And little did they know what was to come thereafter, which is us, everybody. And we may be spoken of in the same terms one day, the Greeks, Romans, and the great expats who landed in the Iberian Peninsula. So there you go, a tiny little speck on the world globe there, and a satellite image for you that you can see from Wikipedia there. That is the Iberian Peninsula with its roughly 53 million folks as well. And I do want to do more reaching out to Spain. I've started listening to Talk Radio Europe as well, so I'd like to get some of those jocks from over there on Talk Radio Europe. And do you know what? If they're calling themselves, this is my message to Talk Radio Europe. If you're calling yourselves Talk Radio Europe and you only have Spanish presenters on there, I think you should call yourself Talk Radio Spain. Or alternatively, if you want to continue to call yourself Talk Radio Europe, please include me in the lineup. I'd love to do a show on Talk Radio Europe. So maybe if your people could speak to my people, that would be awesome. Okay, let's go then to sharing the screen of Portuguese and Spanish relationships and have a look at a few of those factoids as well. We've got the dad jokes to come this morning, and the phone lines are open if you want to. Oh, news just in about somebody's electricity bill as well. Yeah, I fear for mine as well. When I walk into a room, I have become the old dad fart who walks into rooms now and says, "Who left the fire on in here?" Or "Who left the light on in here?" I can't believe that I would be that guy. I am that guy now. Let's do a little bit more then on just concluding on our information about Portuguese-Spanish relations. And yes, I do want that Talk Radio Europe show. Let's have a look over again to Wikipedia. Portugal-Spain relations. It is actually a heading over there on Wikipedia. And there it is with the great and the good, or at least great, of Portugal and Spain on your screen there, referring to my earlier comment that came via Mike Tyson. Portugal-Spain relations describes, funnily enough, the relations between the governments of the Portuguese Republic and the Kingdom of Spain. Not necessarily the people then, I see. Two states make up the vast majority of the Iberian Peninsula, and as such, the relationship between the two is sometimes known as Iberian relations. In recent years, both countries have enjoyed a much friendlier relationship. Well, it had to get better at some point, didn't it? And together they are full-time members of the Ibero-American Summit. That's going to be happening this afternoon in Aveiro. The European Union, the Eurozone, Schengen area, and NATO. It's so complicated, isn't it? All these things that have been started up, mainly to advance power of the elites, I would say, under the guise of being good for us regular and normal people. So we're not normal here, are we? But you know what I'm trying to say. There we go. Population of nearly 10.5 million, according to Wikipedia anyway. You're seeing the flags and the coats of arms there. Here in Portugal, 10.5 million. Over there in Spain, on the other side of the Iberian Peninsula, 48 million, it says there. I think Stuart had that as a little bit lower. The government here in Portugal is described as unitary, semi-presidential. And who doesn't like a semi-presidential first thing in the morning? Unitary parliamentary is how they describe themselves in Spain. The capitals, of course, Madrid in Spain with its, what does that mean? Oh, 3 million, over 3 million of inhabitants, but nearly 6.75 million in its metropolitan area. Lisbon, interestingly as well, only has 500,000 in the city, but in its metropolitan area has, that's amazing, isn't it? The metropolitan area of Lisbon numbers around 3 million population inhabitants of a total population of 10.5 million. That tells you something, doesn't it, about the shift from people from the country to the city. We, of course, speak Portuguese here and Spanish in Spain, funnily enough. And the first leader, this is useful information if you're ever in a Iberian pub quiz, which I hope to be one day. First leader of Portugal was Afonso I from 1139 to 1185. And over there in Spain, you'll have had Ferdinand II of Aragon. What happened to Ferdinand I? Shouldn't he have been the first leader? I guess this is of official Spain rather than another area of which Ferdinand I would have been leader. And Isabella I of Castile. That brings two houses together, doesn't it? And that would have been in the 15th century. Over here, we have Prime Minister Antonio Costa of the PS party. And of a similar political persuasion, I would say, you've got Prime Minister Pedro Sanchez over there in Spain. They still have a king who would be King Philippe VI, who has reigned since 2014. And we have a president, not a king, who would be, of course, the legend and personality, celebrity, who Stuart referred to, who would be Marcelo Rebelo de Sousa. 81% Catholic, 61% Catholic, respectively. And as Stuart said, people are steeped in Catholic culture and probably have Catholic backgrounds, if not declaring themselves Catholic anymore. I wonder how many Jedis there are on the Iberian Peninsula in the censi that have been taken. Ethnic groups, 95% Portuguese is Portugal, with 4.7% others. Spaniards in Spain, 89.7%, with just over 10% others of ethnic groups there in Spain. The GDP is very different. We're at $250 million, just under. And that's changing as we speak. Of course, latest figures then, $250 million, just about, in Portugal, but 1.4 trillion. And I don't know how to do that math. How can somebody give us a ratio of 243.229 billion as a fraction of 1.440 trillion of GDP? That'll be 23,000, nearly 24,000 per capita of GDP in Portugal, with 30,000, nearly 31,000 over there in Spain. So there you go. That's nominal. I don't know what the difference is between nominal and PPP GDP. Of course, we share the euro currency. Did I mention Spartan FX? And the Human Development Index, which I'm taking to be a very good thing, is 0.864, very high. As of 2019, and 0.904 in Spain. So there you go. And the history ranges from the Reconquista, which goes way back, and I guess reflects the uneasy relationship between the two countries that has the saying, only bad winds and bad marriages come from Spain into Portugal. And of course, overseas expansion, the Iberian Union was a thing. The 18th century and 19th century and Napoleonic eras are documented here in Wikipedia. And then in the 1930s, it becomes interesting. And I think we can relate more readily to that, can't we, in our parents, grandparents' time, perhaps, when we see the similar right-leaning authoritarian and nationalist regimes, interestingly, in both Portugal and in Spain, where we had Salazar here in Portugal and General Franco, as he was known, as I was growing up, in Spain there. The end of isolation is also documented here, which is a great moment, of course, for the Iberian Peninsula. And let's look at the present relationships. Current relationships between Spain and Portugal are described as excellent by Wikipedia, despite the little bit of neighbourly rivalry. They cooperate in the fight against drug trafficking and forest fires, which are common in the Iberian Peninsula in summers. And did you see, I think it was the president saying that there's going to be a tough summer when it comes to fires this year, isn't it always? I think he was just alerting, signaling to the Portuguese people to become vigilant in the spring and summer. But more to follow on that, of course, as the year unfolds. These close relations are facilitated by similar governments. Yes, they are socialistic parties, aren't they? The PSs in the respective countries. And in 1998, this was a nice jolly for the politicians, wasn't it? The Albufeira Convention. Where shall we sign our new convention? They asked each other. Shall we go to an industrial estate on the outskirts of Guarda or somewhere like that? No, let's go to Albufeira, shall we? Yeah, that sounds good. An agreement on the sharing of trans-boundary rivers, such as the Douro, Tagus, and Guadiana, was the Albufeira Convention. The convention superseded an original agreement on the Douro signed in 1927. I'd love to see photographs of that, but that was good. In 2009, the two countries submitted an unsuccessful, unfortunately, joint bid to host either the 2018 or 2022 FIFA World Cups. And that bid is back in, isn't it? Co-hosted, I think, with Ukraine. In 2020, Costa, our prime minister here, criticized the words of Dutch finance minister after he called for an investigation into Spain's proclaimed lack of budgetary capacity to cope with the COVID-19 pandemic. So there you see, coming to the aid of each other, describing them as repugnant. And the same year, in 2020, both countries held a solemn border opening ceremony, which had been closed due to the COVID-19 pandemic. And, of course, the joint bid for 2030 World Cup I just mentioned there, that was announced on the 7th of October in 2020. And that is still there as a possibility. The World Cup coming to the Iberian Peninsula, co-hosted with the Ukraine in 2030. So there you go. And a new treaty of friendship and cooperation was signed 2 years ago. I think he said a year ago, renovating the early agreement of the 1970s. And that was the 32nd Iberian Summit, celebrated in Trujillo, held between the governments of Pedro Sanchez and Antonio Costa. So good times then when it comes to the relationships between Portugal and Spain. Good to hear. And very interesting histories of both countries separately and jointly as well. Find out more at Portugal-Spain relations over there on Wikipedia. Thank you very much. Is it Jimmy Wales and the Wikipedia team? I've shifted across the screen whilst reading that. Can't believe I missed Stuart, darn it, but we'll catch up. A warm bed and thick frost. Excellent bedfellows there.